So now let's get into the story crafting. So again, this is going to be slightly different than what we do in the original prompting and trainings inside the school community. So we have this other prompt here that we use for storytelling. Again, this is extracting information, creating compelling avatars. Avatars a lot of times have unique functionalities, characteristics, and details about themselves that make them unique to them. This could be good for you depending on the market, niche, and industry you're working in, or sometimes it could just be it can be bad in the sense that it's constraining you to too small of an avatar. The only ultimate way we're going to know whether or not is by testing, and that's always going to be the answer to a lot of the questions you're probably going to ask me. Alex, should I test the original scripts first, or should I test these new set of scripts, or do I test them both at the same time? Your answer is going to be pretty clear if you just test it. Any hypothesis, any idea, any concept, anything that you're not sure about, there's a great chance that the answer is going to be after conducting a thorough 3-day test. Because there's literally no way to know. Every ad, every website, every offer, it's its own unique test. So for us to know, we're going to have to test it, right? So whatever questions you're thinking about right now in the back of your mind, ask yourself, would I get my definite answer if I just tested and let the campaign data do its thing? If the answer is yes, then you don't need to ask it or wonder, just do it. Okay, so should you launch this first, or should you launch this new Reddit story first? Test it, right? Like literally just test one, and then if one is working well for you, great, continue to double down on what's working. If one is not working well for you, then try the other one. Try both at the same time. If you want to launch a CBO, and in that CBO you have one with this story and one with the other, go ahead. Right? But the overarching story here is that we're just trying to create ads that perform well. The way you deploy those ads does not matter as much as the ads themselves. Okay, just so you guys are aware. Now, one thing I will say is that I recommend you launch these in their own ad sets. So that way you can clearly organize and see, okay, this type of storytelling and framework is doing better than the other one, right? So that way you're not combining them in the same ad set. All right. So with that being said, let's get into it. So this is pretty self-explanatory and simple. In the same Claude chat that you've used to do this synthesis report, you're gonna deploy this next prompt here, and we're gonna attach a little bit of information to this as well. So what you first want to do is go back to this direct extraction report and install this screenshot capture tool. The screenshot capture tool called Go Full Page will allow you to screenshot a website or anything and get a PDF version of it. This is important because unfortunately Claude isn't the best at scraping information, because a lot of websites these days have like blockers and stuff like that make it hard for it to scan and get accurate data. So ultimately what I've just elected to do is I just scrape websites, right? So what I would do is if you're scraping your website or your competitor's website and they have these drop down boxes, I would also recommend you open them up as well if you can. If you can't open all of them up like at once like this person is, try to open the most important one, right? So can it help me with more than just neck pain? Let's just open up one of these, because what we're trying to do is scrape as much information from this website as possible, right? So in this example here, I'm going to be using this website here, kind of Flex Health. I'm going to remove myself from the screen just for a moment here so I don't capture my face in the screenshot. So we're going to just grab this here. And you can still throw the link in too if you want to, but again, it's not necessary if you simply just provide your PDF there. So you're going to do this and download it as a PDF. And for context, guys, you can actually go to the direct Reddit story here and just read up the instructions, right? So what this document is, this document has 3 parts. As a quick start guide explaining what Claude does, a reference section breaking down every option Claude can recommend so you understand each choice and when to use it, and the prompt itself, one copyable block at the end. All right, so what Claude does when you paste this prompt in. So Claude runs 4 internal phases before writing a word of copy. Everything happens inside of one conversation. So Claude's going to ask you for a URL or PDF of a competitor URL for your website and your competitors. If you just want to put yours in, that's fine. It reads them and produces a product intelligence report for your review. So it's going to essentially extract and understand and break down the product, what it does, the functionality, the highlights, the features, all that stuff about the product itself. Then it's going to ask you for the output of this market intelligence report. It's going to read the tensions, the failed solutions, the hardest moments, the same layer, all that stuff. All that is just what this is right here, right? This is it right here. So you don't have to really do anything. You can add this to the project. You can also even download it as a PDF, but it's in the same chat, so you don't have to do anything. It's just going to scroll back up and read that and scan that for you. All right. And then next thing from there, it's going to say writes the copy one section at a time and then delivers clean outputs. Yeah. So that's basically all you need to do, right? So you can see here, prerequisites is going to need a PDF of your website and or your competitor's website, the intelligence reports, and any listings such as Amazon pages or anything like that. So I just screenshotted my website. Let's pretend this is mine. It's not actually mine, but let's just pretend it is. And then we're going to throw that in there. If your product also exists on Amazon, and I recommend you pick the product listing that is exactly one-to-one to your product that you're selling. If it exists, it's fine if it's under a different brand name or whatever, none of that matters. But just as long as the information and details about the product exist, I would recommend you screenshot this as well and open up any information like features, specs, any drop downs about your about the product on the website here on Amazon, so it has as much data as possible. So again, we're going to screenshot this as well because again, unfortunately, Claude's not the best at scanning and scraping through websites, so it's just better to give it the exact information. So now we have our website and an Amazon listing, and let's pretend if I had a competitor's website, I just do that as well, but we don't even need to do that. So now we'll go back to Claude here and we'll do that. And all we're trying to do is just gather as much information about our product when we're doing this, right? This step is literally designed to just gather information. Does the product have an on and off switch? Is it for all sizes? Is it what color is it? What material is it made out of? What's the mechanism? The biggest thing is what's the mechanism of this product? All right, I can put my camera back on here. The biggest thing is what's the mechanism? Like what does this product actually do to solve the problem? That's the biggest thing, right? That's going to be the main thing. There might be some other details about your product. None of that really matters as much as how does this product actually solve the problem? Now, you can also upload product cards if you want to get the trend track free extension tool. And if you're pulling and extracting product cards, you can just turn this button on here, and you can download product cards and upload that to Claude as well, so it has a full understanding, and it's going to conceptualize and figure out the main mechanism that solves the problem in relation to the issues your customer is going after. This is going to be more important for more complex products like this that require a little bit more explanation. And then obviously less complex products that aren't as detail oriented. Same rules apply. You still want to follow the same things, but obviously it's going to be easier to conceptualize what the product's actually doing. This is important because when we write copy, we want to make sure that we're talking about the product in a way that it actually solves a problem. And that way, when people reach our website, there's no drop off, there's no confusion, right? We don't want to be writing about in the story how this has it's good for your neck, but it also can be transformed into a leg massager as well in the story. And then we go to the website and it says nothing about that. So there needs to be congruency from your story to your product page and the functionality and features about the product itself. Claude knows how to write good copy, especially with the prompts that we're writing. So it's going to focus on the main mechanism, the main hero feature about your product, not the color, the size, the weight, the smell, whatever. But it's still important to make sure we have as much context and information as possible. Okay, so you're going to do that. The report's already pulled above, right? If you want to just be double, triple sure that everything is pulled, you can just download this as a PDF, save it here. And then you could just add it in as well, just to make sure you're good. So you have your website, you have the Amazon listing if it exists. If you don't have an Amazon listing, it's one-to-one and has information about the product. That's fine. Just don't put anything there. And then I have the report. And the only thing that I'm not doing right now is an example of my competitor's website. Unnecessary at this point. It's only optional if you really want to highlight something, but you don't even need that. So there you go. There's more than enough information and details highlighted on the websites here to describe and break down what our product is and what it does. All right. So then from there, the only other thing you got to do here is just copy this entire document, which is linked below on this training. You're going to copy this. Copy all the way up to here, hit copy. Then you can come into Claude here and then just hit Control V or Command V, and then it's going to do its thing. Right, so that's the concept there. While that's doing its thing, just so you guys are aware, we're going to be going through what, once again, somewhat of a pre-flight checklist. It's not going to be as thorough and as many steps as the one we normally run in the program, but it's going to ask you and it's going to recommend a couple different frameworks, right? So first off is going to be the hook framework. The first sentence determines whether everything else gets read. Each format creates a different psychological entry point. Only one will be right for a combination of awareness level and primary attention. So Claude's going to do a good job of extracting information directly from the Reddit forums and figure out the primary awareness level that it's going to be speaking to when we talk about establishing our target audience. So for format 1, right? So for this, drops the reader into the specific hardest moment identified in the extraction report. The scene is described with enough physical and emotional detail that the reader recognizes it as their own life before they consciously register what the post is about. So this is just going to be scene-based opening. This is going to be, I woke up again for another night with dreading, the next few hours because I know what was suspected to come. My knee hasn't been right for the last 8 years, and I still don't know what to do. Right, like that's just going to be dropping you in the moment as if you're in that exact scenario. Format 2, which is the alternative hook, right, which is names who the reader is before anything else. The first sentence tells the reader exactly who this is written for with enough specificity that the right person feels called out and the wrong person scrolls. All right, so this is going to be best for when primary attention is shame or isolation. Being named and seen stops the scroll in a way that generic opening cannot. So here, again, we're trying to be dynamic, right? We don't want cookie cut, copy paste scripts and prompts that only create the same output every single time. We want to use interpreted data to decide, okay, what emotion are we trying to evoke? And based off the emotion, what type of hook are we going to start the story with? Format 3 is confession-based opening. The narrator admits something that at the start that they have not said out loud before, creates immediate intimacy. The reader feels like they are being trusted with something private, which makes them trust back. This is best for when primary attention is shame or hopelessness. Confession neutralizes shame. The narrator says the thing, which gives the reader permission to recognize it as themselves. All right, so example pattern, I'm going to tell you something I've never told most people. The thing I am about to say took me years to admit. Risk, the confession must be real and specific. A performed confession, one that sounds constructed, breaks the trust immediately. And then format 4 is a statement-based opening. Opens with a blunt, unexpected truth that directly contradicts a belief that the reader has been told. Stops the scroll because it says exactly something the reader did not expect to see said plainly. So this is best for level 3 solution where audiences who are immune to standard openings. They have seen every hook. You have to say something that they have not heard. Example pattern. Everything you've been told about weight loss is missing the one thing that actually explains it. Right, so that's going to be your 4 different hook frameworks. Claude is going to recommend one based off of the formatting and structure. You can agree to go with the recommendation, or if you want to go with a different one, you can just tell it, hey, pick a statement-based one instead of a confession-based one. All right, and then the same thing with the discovery frameworks here. So you can just read up on the rest of these. I think you guys get the concept here. There's going to be 3 different discovery frameworks. This determines how the product enters into section 4A. So obviously, we're going to start off with a good hook and a lead. A lead is to mirror exactly what the character is going through or the reader is going through in this moment in time, explain in a way that they resonate with. And then we have to bridge the gap between where they are now and where they want to be. And the discovery, which will be the introduction to how we came across the product that solved the problem, is important, right? It has to feel organic, natural, and has to make sense and blend into the story. If it feels forced, if it feels like it was placed there and doesn't blend in naturally, a lot of times you're going to have a lot of people that click on the ad but don't actually go to your page because they drop off at that point. Right, it's why you can sometimes see a good CTR all metric where it's a 30-40% CTR all, but your link click-through rate is a 1.1 or 1.2%. Right, so now we can get into this, right? So product intelligence report, narrator name, pseudonym, Dana, product name. All right, so boom, boom, boom. So it's just going to evaluate and break down what the product is, what it does. The biggest thing to pay attention to, guys, is the mechanism name. So 26-degree cervical decompression with simultaneous EMS activation. So just, the copy isn't going to say all this heavy jargon, but it's just, you just want to make sure you read through this and it actually does what the product is alluding to be able to do, right? So whatever the mechanism name is, read it, make sure this is actually what your product does, right? So what this product does: combines heat therapy, vibration massage, EMS, pulse, right? And then just read this. If it makes sense, good. You could read some more of this other stuff here, transformational linkage from the product page. Don't worry too much about this product page stuff. As long as the product that you're talking about in your copy is the same product on your product page, you're good to go. But I did have Claude just double check to make sure this could run today. Once everything looks good from there, just hit continue. And then it's going to get to the next step. Give it some time here, but it's now going to get into the storytelling. So once again, I want to iterate. You're going to see that the story structure and formatting is going to be similar to what we already create in the first section of ad copy and ad writing. The difference, again, is just going to be we're speaking directly from the Reddit scrapes, and the words and terminology is pulled from my target audience. And this is not going to have as much specific nuance, avatar information and details, which is, again, a good, or it could be a good or bad thing, depending on what you're testing and how this is going to perform. So why, ultimately speaking, the only way to know if this is going to work for you or not is by testing it. And you can test this under the same CBO, but just on a different ad set. All right. So awareness level, the 3 levels: problem aware, knows the pain exists, boom, boom, boom; solution aware, boom, boom, boom. Based on the data, people have tried chiropractic massage, stretching, PT, TENS, and multiple pillows, and are still searching Reddit at 4 a.m. This audience sits squarely at solution aware. They know the problem intimately. They have tried the obvious answers. What they do not have is credible explanation for why none of it has worked. The explanation is the only thing that can move them. Right, so it's going to just ask you, okay, boom, do we want to tackle solution aware? Is the tension point good? The tension points, remember, refer back to the market report that we did here from Reddit scrapes. Synthesis report. Just verify that the tension is good, right? I've tried everything and nothing has worked, right? This is pulled directly from them. And then it has a secondary layer in agitation, tension 3. This has been going on so long, I've just accepted it as normal, right? So this is just going to combine a couple different tensions based off of what the scrape showed to be a common occurrence amongst characters, and then going to combine the two together to help really agitate the pain. And then discovery frame. So it's recommended discovery frame A. The narrator found this through their own exhaustive research after everything else failed. Data shows this audience is independent, skeptical of practitioners, accustomed to finding their own answers through Reddit and YouTube. A pair recommendation. Frame B requires a trusted relationship, and code reader cannot verify. An accidental discovery. Frame C removes the sense of deliberate searching that mirrors this audience's actual behavior. Frame A matches exactly what the research shows what these people do. It's basically saying that we're going to create a story that resonates with the person and exactly what they would do to discover a problem like this. And then hook format. They recommend in format 2, the blunt statement of the specific private experience. So all you got to do is just hit confirm, and then it's going to go out and continue to generate the story for you. Now, I want to remind you again, AI is great, but it's not perfect. Throughout this process, you'll find certain things that you need to adjust and change, and that's fine. The biggest thing is just making sure things are accurate and blend and sounds like it was pulled directly from Reddit, which a lot of cases you should do, right? So I would say these scripts and these prompts do 80% of the work. You got to do the other 20%, which is really important. That 20% that you do is going to be very important, though. And that's really making sure you're catching any small details or information that needs to be improved or needs to be fixed. All right, so we're going to start off, and this is the opening to the ad, right? So this is going to be the hook here. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from being in pain while everyone else is asleep. So this is the mirror moment. We're going to try to reflect and mimic and mirror what the existing reader is going through. I would lie there running the position options in my head. Right side, no, back, fine, for about 40 seconds, and then something at the base of my skull starts throbbing. Left side with arm folded under my head, right? So as you can see here, this is really detailed, right? These are the exact things that we scraped and know that the target audience is actually doing. I've been doing this for months, not weeks, months. The kind of tired that stops feeling like tiredness, starts feeling like a verdict on the rest of your life, right? So that's pretty good. If you would want to adjust or change anything, you would just tell Claude, hey, I want to change, XYZ, whatever you want to change, and then we'll go back and change it. Then once you're ready, you can just hit approve here, and then move on, keep reading. And that's the name of the game here. It's literally just going through, breaking this section by section, making sure it's good, and then we'll get a nice output at the end. The list was long by then, longer than I'd like to admit out loud. The chiropractor first, because that is what everyone says, 3 times a week for 2 months. The specific sound, that specific 30 seconds of relief, and then driving home and feeling all come back before I got to the end of the street, right? So this is exactly what's been pulled from Reddit, right? Boom, then the massage, right? So we know what were the 3 failed attempts. Pulled directly from Reddit, right? So failed solution number 1 was the chiropractor. Failed solution number 2 is stretching, right? So we see here, preference as have been failed or worsened pain, 7 out of 10 threads. I've tried adjusting my pillow, being mindful of my posture, stretching, but nothing works. Stretching yoga is not doing it for me. I've tried stretching, exercising, some heat, NSAIDs, massages from friends, and the chiropractor about 8 times. I constantly stretch, etc., but nothing. I've tried stretching my neck, but doesn't help much either, right? So this is pulled directly from the Reddit forums. That's why, again, guys, I want to stress this. Try to get as many as you can, because the more data points you have, the better. But, right, stretching, and then we know the third one is massaging, same thing, then massage. So as you can see here, within the way on it, we're trying to really stress what, for this particular message and this particular audience, because they're in solution where people have tried other solutions to resolve this pain. So we need to stress and emphasize, hey, I've tried all these things too. The same things you've tried, or the things that everyone's telling you tried, I've tried it as well. Remember, this is being written from the first person perspective. So when I say I'm talking about from the lens of the ad and the writer from the ad. I carry all my stress in my neck. That is what I kept telling people when I asked. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, this is good, right? So you want to just verify that all this stuff looks good according from what we scraped from Reddit. hit approve. And then it's going to now get into the mechanism. This is where you're going to have to pay close attention. So I get asked all the time, Alex, what would you focus on primarily in your copy when you're trying to make good copy? The 2 to 3 biggest things. The 3 biggest things is the hook and opening lead, the problem agitation, and then the mechanism, right? Like those are going to be the biggest things. Call to action also matters at the end too, like how we introduce the product. But those matter a lot because those are the things that are in front of the call to action, and it's the first set of things that the people see. So this point here, right? And you can hit the drop down, by the way, guys. You can see here, Claude's thinking and process. But this is the aha moment, right? How did you finally overcome these failed solutions, right? I came across something one night that I have thought about almost every day since. It was not a product, it was an explanation, a simple one. The kind what makes you sit up and read it twice because it reframes every single thing you thought you understood about why you're hurting. Here's what I had never been told. The neck has a natural curve, a specific angle it's supposed to hold. Hours at a screen, hours looking down, years of accumulated tension, and that curve starts to flatten. When it flattens, the disc shift. When the disc shift, they press on the nerves running through the whole system, and the pressure is what creates the pain. Not just the surface tightness, not just knots, the pressure on the nerves underneath all of it. Here's the part that stopped me cold. Stretching works on muscle tension. Massage works on muscle tension. A chiropractor works on bone position. Not one of these things address what happens when the actual curve of your cervical spine has been gradually collapsing for years and the disc have moved with it. I've not failed at fixing at my neck. I've been using tools that were never built to fix the thing that was actually broken. That is different. That is a different problem that I thought I had, and it meant that there was a different kind of solution I never looked for. So the whole point here of this aha moment isn't to sell the product. Notice we still have not mentioned the product at all. So when you're reading through your copy, your focus before you even introduce your product, and how you introduce your product matters, but your focus before your product is even introduced is, how do I get the person to realize that the story is about them early within the story? And then how do I get them to understand that I've also went through the same problems that they have gone through, especially in solutionware. Problemware is a little different, right? We would not stress this as much in problemware, but due to the product and the niche that I'm going after, it's primarily solutionware. So because of that, right, we want to, in this case, put a big focus on identifying what the aha moment is. What's that moment that makes the sense as to why everything in the past has not worked? And this is it, right? All the other stuff that we've tried, it makes sense why it doesn't work because the main problem hasn't been addressed yet. So once the reader understands that, now they're way more likely to be more receptive to how you introduce the product and actually take action primarily, because now they understand, oh, this isn't some other BS product that doesn't work. This is a whole new concept that I have never even tried before. And the better job you do of that, the better your copy is going to be. So we go now to approve. Continue here. Give this a second to load. So now this is also gonna be important, right? So again, the question is, Alex, what should you focus on to make your copy better? All of it honestly is important, but these are the main points here, right? This right here, the aha moment, the hook, the aha moment, and then introduction to the product. So I went looking that same night, actually, which was not unusual for me at that point. I had become the kind of person who reads about their neck at midnight. But I was looking for something different now. Not the best stretch, not which chiropractor had the best reviews. I was looking for something that worked at the level of the curve itself, something that could gently put back what years of screens and tension has been slowly taking away. It took a while. Most of what I found was the same category of thing I've already tried. Massagers, pillows, heat wraps, devices that vibrated against the surface of the problem without touching what was underneath. Again, this type of stuff is important regardless if you're an underwear, problemware, or solution, but it's going to be more important definitely in solutionware because again, these people have tried other solutions. So we want to just further distinguish us and our product versus whatever other things that they've tried. Because if you get to this point here and you start to bridge the discovery, and this is broken down into section 4A and 4B, 4A just starts to analyze and address the other products out there and why they're not as good. This is important because if you don't do a good enough job separating yourself from your product and the common other products that people may have tried, the reader's not going to be moved enough. They're going to say to themselves, oh, I've already tried all those things, and move on. So what caught me was not the marketing. So actually I skipped the point here. Devices that vibrate against the surface of the problem without touching it. And then I found something called Neck Revive. So this is one of those things here where you can choose to actually have your brand name or the product name, or you can be a little bit more obscured. And then I found something called this. Then I found this thing called a cervical neck massager, where you may not directly name drop your particular product. I haven't found one to work better than the other, but this is one of those things that people like to test, like to not test. And the reason for that is because the belief and the understanding or the assumption is if I give the specific name, people are going to not go on my ad and actually shop and buy. They're going to just Google it and try to verify it first, right? So a curious buyer might say, oh, Neck Revive. Let me go to Google real quick and type in Neck Revive and see if I can find Neck Revive in Google. And maybe your store does pull up through SEO, through Shopify, and then boom. Or maybe another competitor's website pulls up and then just end up buying from that. So that I haven't been able to track or prove that to happen, right? I've seen it work in both ways. I've seen people name drop and it work fine. I've seen people not name drop and it not work fine. So I ultimately can't give you the do this, do that. You're going to have to just figure it out on your own. But option one is to literally just name drop. So if I had a product called the Alex Neck Massager, I might say, hey, then I found something called the Alex Neck Massager, or again, in this case, Neck Revive, which again is this person's product name on their website. Or you can choose to elect to go a little bit more obscure. Instead of name dropping, just talk about the product as a whole and just simply say, and then I found this thing called a cervical neck pillow, or in this case, a cervical neck massager. Now, people still might go and look up and see, oh, what's a cervical neck massager? I might go up and look. But the whole idea here is that throughout the rest of this copy, we're going to highlight the one that the narrator in the story found was the best one, and any other alternative is a waste of money, right? Because if someone now has to go search and they don't have the specific brand that they're going after, that's going to be a little bit harder for them to want to look and find versus just getting the specific one. Now they're going to be more enticed to just buy from or click the buy now button or the shop now button on your ad versus now having to do the research, because now they're going to have to go through a sea of different other neck massages, and they want to make sure that they got the right one, right? Especially since a sentence before this clarified that there are all these other different ones that don't work. What caught me was not the marketing. It was a specific claim about the angle. 26 degrees, a cervical decompression built to gently restore the neck's natural curve while simultaneously using electrical muscle simulation to wake up the muscles around it. So notice one of the things you want to pay attention to in this section as well, making sure nothing is too advanced into too much jargon, right? Too much marketing jargon. It should be simple. It should be explained from the perspective of someone that is in 10th grade or in middle school, right? I believe the average reader has a reading comprehension of a 5th grade reading level. So we want to make sure that when we're explaining features or anything like that, we don't want to harper too much on it, right? It should not be 3 paragraphs of information about this, but also it should be simple to understand, right? Like without even knowing what this product is or what it does, I should be able to read this and be like, oh yeah, okay, I see, that makes sense, right? So it has heat and vibration running at the same time, 4 things working together on the actual structural problem rather than the sensation that it's producing. So we always want to tie it back into the emotional reward, right? Like, what is the point of this, right? So cool. It has 26-degree decompression built in. Okay, that's cool. And we want to clarify that, but we always want to end off by saying what this actually means for you, the reader. Well, this means that it actually tackles the structural problem rather than the sensation of it that it's producing. I read the whole page twice and then ordered it. All right, so that's good. Boom. So if you guys really just focus on a good hook, a good mirror, right? So hook and a mirror is going to be the same thing, right? The hook and lead type, which is the start of the story, right? So this section here, if you focus on this, and this, and you really focus on that 3-layer section, you'll be good a lot of the times, right? A lot of times you'll be good. And obviously that makes sense, right? Because that's the order in which the reader is reading. And the whole point of these native stories is to retain the reader throughout the first word, ideally all the way to the end, right? The longer we can keep them reading, the more likely they are to be bought in. So the first experience. So I want to be honest about the first time I used it. I was not expecting much. That is the truth. I've been here before with things that promised something and delivered an hour of mild relief and returned to baseline. I calibrated myself down to the point where I was not really hoping anymore. I was just trying. Now, what this does is break down the sales wall. It gets really vulnerable, right? So again, whenever you introduce a product, no matter how good of a copywriter you are, people are aware they're always being sold to. So their sales walls are naturally going to be a little bit elevated. What we want to do is continue to break down that sales wall to make this as realistic and believable as possible, and also be as vulnerable as possible. And this is exactly what someone would say that isn't trying to sell you something, right? They're not jumping straight into the product. We still haven't even really spent too much time highlighting the product too much. We did it just a moment ago, but we're tying everything back to the emotional state, right? So I lay down, I positioned it under my neck the way the instructions showed, 15 minutes. The heat came first, not the surface warmth of a heating pad, but something that felt like it was actually getting to the muscle itself, right? So remember, we're trying to distinguish how are we different than the competitors in the market space, especially in solution aware marketing. Well, for one, other products out there, you feel the warmth, but it's not actually doing anything. It's just warm. So we've got to clarify that and distinguish that, right? The heat came first, not the surface warmth of a heating pad, but something that it felt like it was getting into the muscle itself. Then the EMS, a gentle pulse, almost strange at first, the kind of sensation you have to let yourself relax into. And then something I was not prepared for, the dread did not arrive, right? I did not know how else to say it. There's a specific kind of bracing that I had learned to do whenever I tried something new, awaiting for the moment when whatever small relief I felt would start to undo itself. I lay there for 15 minutes and the feeling did not come. My neck felt quieter than it had in months, not fixed, not dramatic, just quieter. I stayed there a few minutes longer and then I need to. One thing I would change about this, I would say here, I don't like the term my neck felt quieter. You know, what the heck does that even mean, right? So this is what I mean by you're gonna need to do 20% of the work. I mean, sometimes in some cases maybe 30%, right? So a lot of so far has been great, but there's some words and terminologies that I don't like. The general rule of thumb is if I have to, as I'm reading this, question something for a second, that means the reader is even 2x that amount, right? So if to me that doesn't really make sense, the reader definitely is not going to understand that. Now, if this was an exact quote pulled directly from the Reddit scrapes, then I would leave it in because maybe that group of people in that audience knows and uses that terminology. But this is not from that. This is pulled from Claude's own writing. So I'm gonna change this. I don't like the term "my neck felt quieter." Instead, can we replace that with something more emotionally clear and easy to understand? Right. So I want to keep the emotion there. I want it to still be clear on the transformation, but I want the transformation to sound more tangible. So for the first time in a long time, I was not in pain. Boom. There you go. Right. This idea that my neck felt quieter. What does that mean? So that's one of the situations we're gonna have to tell Claude, hey buddy, let's fix this, right? So for the first time in a long time, I was not in pain, not fixed, not so dramatic before and after, just not in pain, which sounds small until you understand what it had cost me to get there. I stayed there a few minutes longer than I needed to, right? So there we go. It's way better, right? It's clear. What are we talking about? Pain, right? So it's clear as day. Anyone can understand that. So that's one of those things I would pay attention to. Just make sure the terminology, the wording is clear and concise. If you have to question it and you're confused by it, and it's not pulled directly from, if you notice, by the way, I've been keeping this up the entire time. If it's not pulled directly from this, then I would adjust it. So now the transformation. It's been a few weeks now. I want to be clear about how I say this because I spent long enough on the other side of hope that I did not want to oversell it to someone who is where I was. So I will just say what is actually different, right? Again, lowering that sales wall, right? These are small sentences that have a big overall approach to how we address who we speak to. So I slept through the night. That sounds ordinary. It is not ordinary. For months, my whole night was negotiating between positions, a series of small failed attempts to find somewhere my neck would leave me alone. Now I wake up, the first thing I notice is that I'm not immediately taking inventory of where the pain is. I got in my car last week and checked my blind spot without thinking about it, right? So these are so important because the ultimate goal here is to show the reader where the pain and where they are now and living in the pain that they've done with every day, and they'll end transformation, right? If you notice, we still haven't provided a call to action, right? Because we're still stressing the importance of that emotional transition. So this all sounds good. And then we're going to reiterate the product here. I use Neck Revive for 15 minutes in the evening. That is it. I put it on while I'm watching something, while I'm winding down. The heat, the decompression, the EMS running through it all. I feel the stiffness dissolve in a way that nothing has ever produced for me. The move, the sleep, the feel better every single day language on the page sounded like marketing to me. The first time I read it, it does not sound like marketing anymore. Sweet. Cool. So that sounds really, really good. So this is another thing that I wanted to add in here is the proof beat. And basically, depending on the story and the messaging, we want to further harper on the transformation from the lens of somebody else, right? So we want to talk about how other people around them saw how different they start to look, right? So my partner knows before I said anything. That is the part I kept coming back to. I had not made a big announcement about trying something new. I had stopped talking about my neck a long time ago because there's only so many times you can update someone on a problem that never gets better before you start to feel like a person who only talks about being in pain. So I said, so I had not said anything. About 2 weeks in, she asked me if something had changed, said I had seemed different in the evenings, less somewhere else. That is how she put it, less somewhere else. I don't like how that read. About 2 weeks in, she asked me if something had changed. I said I seem different in the evenings, less somewhere else. I don't really like that. So again, if you have to read something twice for you to understand it, that means that we can reword this. So I'm just gonna highlight that section to say, this reads weird. Can you reformat this in an easy to read way? Right? I don't know exactly how I want it to sound, but I just know it needs to be better. Let me read the rest of this before I change anything else. I thought about that for a while because that's exactly what the current page does. She noticed the absence of that before I had fully registered it myself. That told me more than anything I needed to mention. Okay, perfect. So let's do that. And again, every now and again, you're gonna have to do this. It's a part of the process. It's normal. It's expected, anticipated. So that's what you do there. All right. So boom, boom, boom. After about 2 weeks in, she looked at me one evening and said, "You seem more like yourself lately." I asked her what she meant. She said, "I don't know. You're just more present. Like you're actually here instead of somewhere in your head." There you go. See, that sounds way cleaner, way cleaner. And then we're gonna hit approve one more time. And now we can do the soft CTA. So I'll say one thing about why I had not found this sooner. I searched the same categories everyone else searches: neck massages, cervical pillows, traction devices. What comes up is built around the same idea, something that sits in the surface of the problem and vibrates or heats or stretches in a general direction. That's a whole category. I almost tried most of it. Neck Revive was not built around that idea. It was built around the specific structural problem that makes neck pain chronic in the first place. The decompression angle, the EMS working, the muscle simultaneously, the combination of 4 things targeting the same actual root. Because rather than sensation it produces, this is why it did not surface the way other else's did. It is not the same thing in a different box. If you have been in this long enough to recognize your own list, is what I wrote up there. I'm not going to tell you this fixes everything. I'm going to tell you that I finally understand why nothing else did, and that is a different starting point than I had been in a long time. There's a link below. Reading is hard sometimes. It is the one I used. They have a money back guarantee, which is the only reason I tried it after everything else I had spent money on. I wish someone had pointed me here sooner. So this is what I like to call a soft CTA. This is a beautiful CTA. I wouldn't change anything about it. You can try different variations of this down the line when you're writing in different variations of it, but you can tell that, again, we're breaking the sales wall, right? I'm not going to tell you that this is going to fix all your problems. And I'm also not hard selling the website, right? Like, go to the website, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I use this one. They're different than the other ones because they actually solve the problem. And finding it by just searching it's a little bit hard because then you end up coming across all the same type of bullshit. So what I'll do is I'll link the same one that I use. They do have a money back guarantee if you're interested in that. And I wish someone had told me this sooner. And then under this line here, you could leave a link to the specific website. So people have always asked me that, do I just leave the shop now button there, or do I put the link to my actual product page? You could copy this link here and you could add this at the end. Just, put a pointing emoji to the link and place that there and see how that does for you. All right, once all said and done and everything is good and adjusted, you hit approve, you'll get the finalized block. And ladies and gentlemen, you just created a direct Facebook story ad, I guess you could say. And now this is perfect for copy and paste. No M dashes or weird lines or formatting here. You can just copy this, load it up. And then the biggest thing here is just, you should have already gone through the image ad training, and I already alluded to what you would create for an image. But the whole goal here is to take a look at this copy, and whatever moment that person feels and experiences on a day-to-day or on a week-to-week basis, your goal is to try to create an image that resonates with them in that format. That's going to be paired really well with this to help stop the scroll. And overall, remember, the thing that's going to actually drive sales home will be this long form copy itself, right? The mirror, the mechanism, the pain, agitation. So this is going to be similar structure to what we wrote in I just want to stress this one more time. This is going to be similar to the same structure, right? As far as lead, agitation, mechanism as the original scripts that we have inside the course right now. But the way it is formatted is similar, but the way the copy blends and rolls is going to be different. You notice there's no heavy highlight on the person, type of car this person drives, the type of family they have, right? A big or small family, right? The type of environment they live in, right? There's those other character traits that make an avatar aren't being highlighted in this long form copy. And that's why this is different than what we did already in the other prompting. And this could be good, this could not be good, right? In other words, this might work for you, might not. The only way to know is by testing, right? And that's going to be the ultimate answer to any question you're going to ask me about, should I test this first, second, or last? You should just test it. And we'll have a whole separate training on that in just a moment here. But yeah, here you go. right? Here you go. This is going to be some copy that I would test here. This is spot on. This is beautiful. So now we're going to get into some variations and how I would deploy this ad. And it's not going to be too difficult here, but we'll talk about that in the next set of trainings.